All right, guys, we're here at the tackle box. One of the things that I don't do very much on my channel is talking about beginning fishermen. I kind of just assume that all people know how to fish, like I do, which is not very well. But I'm going to break it down for you guys today. I'm going to tell you guys about the 5 best baits for a beginner to pick up. I'm here at the tackle box in South Point, Ohio. We're going to be talking about my favorite baits for a beginner. I've had a lot of people call and ask me or message me and say, hey, what bait should I use here? What bait should I use there if I'm a beginner? I'm going to break it down for you guys. You guys are going to have my top 5 baits to use as a beginner starting right now.
Okay.
Hey guys, again, I was talking to you guys about my favorite baits for beginner. I get this asked a lot. Very first thing I'm going to turn to is a square bill crankbait. Some of my favorite are the Strike King 1.5s. Again, we're here at the tackle box South Point High. You can see there's a ton of different crankbaits, and that's what people get confused with all the time. Where do I start? How do I actually, what one to choose? Well, first and foremost, I'll just grab 2 here. First off, this is a KVD 1.0 and a 1.5. 1.5 is my favorite. You can see the dive's 3 to 5 foot. That means this thing will dive anywhere from a 3 to 5 foot range. The reason it's different is, one, how fast you're reeling it, the type of line you're using will change that. So again, any collar that you pretty much want, you want to match the hatch if you can, whatever you're fishing with. If there's bluegill in there, you're going to want to use something that's bluegill collared like this 1.0 here. But the difference between a square bill like this 1.5 and something, let me grab so like this 5XD here. 5XD has a more of a coffin style bill or a round style bill. The difference between these two is that this one you can actually fish around cover. The square bill, it'll actually dive and dart off of cover, so it'll keep you from getting snagged. But this one actually has a wider wobble than a square bill too. So one of my first picks would be a square bill crankbait. You can fish these things in and around cover. Will you get snagged? Sure, but it'll save you from getting snagged a lot. So my very first bait is going to be any kind of crankbait. If you're looking for something to go with all the time, check out 1.5 style crankbait. All right, guys, 2 baits that are right here, right together, I can talk to you a little bit about. First and foremost, if you don't know about the tackle box spinner baits here, they are phenomenal. Best on the planet, by far. But something with double or with a willow leaf blade like this, something that's kind of a shad pattern or bait fish pattern, something I would go for. This is a 3/8 ounce, basically a shad pattern here, poured here at the tackle box in South Point, Ohio. These are the best things on the planet. They absolutely murder fish. So a spinner bait is going to be something that I would go to for a beginner. This is an easy bait to tie on. You're going to tie it through the loop here, cast it, and reel it. The faster you cast or you reel it, it's going to stay higher in the water column. The slower you reel it, it will actually go lower in the water column. So spinner bait is number 1. This is a 3/8 ounce willow leaf from the tackle box. Next right here is going to be a football style jig, which my favorite is actually out of stock, which is right here. But any football head jig, I'll grab one here, you can see. We'll just grab this 3/8 ounce. So you can see it's got a football style head on it there. Hopefully you guys can see that in the package. Again, this is poured here by Greg at the tackle box. Pretty phenomenal. One thing that I do with my jigs when I very first get them, you can see that, let's just pull this thing out of here. So you can see, obviously tie your line through there. But this weed guard here is actually a little long. I like to kind of trim it off. So if you were to trim it off to about like right there, it makes it look a little bit more natural. I'll show you a bait that I like to throw on there as a trailer in just a second. So spinner bait, some sort of jig like this. Again, you're going to cast this thing. You can cast this in and around cover. You're going to be hopping along stuff. You're going to make this look like a crayfish or something on the bottom a lot of times. You can swim jigs. Let me put this one back. Where was that? And then if you grab a swim jig, like a casting jig or something like this, something that has a more of a darter head style, you can actually swim this through cover, and fish absolutely, they absolutely obliterate it. So jig, spinner bait, crankbait. Let's look at the next 2. Number 4 for me would be a Texas rig to anything. This is one of my favorites. This is a Zoom Speed Crawl and Green Pumpkin. You're going to want to pick up a few things. First off, some sort of, my favorite is the offset shank worm hook. It doesn't matter who makes it. Gamakatsu makes some really good stuff. VMC. There's also Mustad. Berkeley makes some. I'm going to show you guys how to rig this in a cutaway in just a second. You're going to need a weight, And these offset shanks, some people when they're flipping and pitching like to have an actual straight shanked hook. My favorite is an offset shank. I just feel like it comes through cover more. So I'll show you guys how to rig a Texas rig speed crawl in just a second. All right, so a lot of people ask me, what is a Texas rig? How do you Texas rig a bait? So again, I picked these up at the tackle box while I was up there. These are a Zoom speed crawl in green pumpkin. I had a fellow tell me one time, you can fish any color you want to, son, as long as it's green pumpkin, and he was not lying. Green pumpkin is an absolute killer, no matter what bait you're fishing, let alone the Zoom Ultra 5 speed crawl. These things are phenomenal. So I picked up some Gamakatsu offset shank worm hooks here, and I'll grab one of these here. So these are 4/0. These are my favorite. 3/0 a lot of times work better. So the issue is this shank right here keeps your bait on there a little bit, but what you have to measure is the bait long enough to actually have a 4/0 go in there. And 4/0 is the biggest that you can put in a Zoom speed crawl and still have it, work well. 3/0 is probably the best to put in these. I like a little bigger hook, so I choose a 4/0 Gamakatsu or Mustad, Owner. They all make great hooks, guys. I just picked up some Gamakatsu. Matter of fact, I usually fish the Bass Pro Shops version of this stuff. You can pick up like 50 of them, and they work really, really well. So, first off, you're going to tie this on your line. I don't have a rod here or a slip sinker, so I can't really show you the exact way to do this, but your line will be coming from your reel and tied off here, but in between that, you're going to put a slip sinker on your weight, or slip sinker on your line. So you have the line going through the slip sinker and then tied off here on this. So there's a lot of different things. People say, do you peg the weights? Which means, making them stationary so they can't move up and down. My favorite way to do that is using a bobber stop. You can pick those things up by the thousands on Amazon. If you just search for rubber bobber stops, you can get thousands of them for like $10. So it'll last you pretty much a lifetime. They're crazy how many you can get. So you would put the bobber stop above the sinker, and wherever that bobber stop was at, it would keep the sinker from moving. Some people think that that's not a good idea. Some people do. I personally do that on some circumstances. The issue is if you cast out and you have that slip sinker that's able to move, the slip sinker can come up. Say this is a tree branch and it comes up over that. What happens is that slip sinker can slip off of the line or down the line and cause your bait to either come off from it or not get a good hook set. So that's why I peg the sinker on a Texas rig, but it's totally your preference. I like to peg the sinkers, but again, you don't have to. So you'd have your line coming down, going through a slip sinker, tied on here with your favorite knot, whether that be a Palomar. I use a double San Diego Jam. There's several of them that you can choose from. Uni knot is also really good. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this hook and we're going to put it through a little chunk of the bait, like this right here. So then what we're going to do is we're going to fold this all the way down. We're going to push it all the way down until it's over that. But here's the issue. I'm turning this thing as it goes through. So now what I have, you can see why that offset shank there, it makes it really nice. So then what you can do, there's two different ways. Some people like to have their hook in the bait to where it's totally not exposed. But I like to do a little bit of both. This bait is really, not very dense, so the hook coming through there wouldn't be that tough to set the hook through. But what I do is I bend the bait a little bit and I push the hook all the way through. So it looks like this. So there. So you don't want to leave it like this because this is not weedless. The whole point of this rig is to make it a weedless rig so it doesn't get snagged or messed up on a limb or a rock or something. So what you can do to make this a weedless rig again is you can take the hook point and actually push it back into the bait. So like that. You can see that there's no hook exposed there. So what happens is, this thing's dragging over brush, rocks, or whatever that hook is actually in that bait, so it's not going to be exposed and it's not going to get hooked on things. You're going to get snagged as easy. But when you set the hook, the fish, it's easy. It comes back out. You set the hook, you're going to get a really nice hook set on that fish. So again, that's how you rig a Texas rig. You can do this with pretty much anything. My favorite is some sort of bait like this or a creature style. Another really good option is a Jackal Chunk Crawl Texas rig. This is really good bait. I love it a lot. You could throw a Cinco Texas rig like this. Is a really popular bait style or bait choice with a Cinco, whether it be Gary Yamamoto or a Yum Dinger or something like that. You could do that with this. There are several other creature baits that you could throw like this, but a Texas rig has its advantages because, again, it's streamlined, it's easy to tie, cheap to pick up, easy to throw, and you're going to catch fish on it. Bait number 5 is going to be a topwater bait of some sort. My favorite is a popper style bait like this. This is a KVD Splash made by Strike King. There's a ton of different ones that are like this, depending on what size you want. So there's a bigger style popper. These walking dog baits like the Sexy Dog Junior, made by Strike King. I'm just standing in the Strike King aisle, guys. I'm not promoting one brand or the other. Just know that these two baits, some sort of topwater action like a buzz bait, this walking dog bait like this Sexy Dog Junior, the popper bait there that I just showed you. These are all awesome baits. You can easily get up into the mega dogs. These things are giant. I don't know how long this thing actually is. I would imagine that's probably a 7-inch bait, probably 6-inch. Anyway, huge walking bait. So, guys, those are my top 5 baits for any beginner. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop a comment below, and I will do my best to answer. See you guys next Tuesday on the live show.